Welcome, Rylie Berzinski. Thank you for being here. I am Courtney Volpe, and the purpose of this interview is to look into your cognitive strategies that impact your performance in dance. Would you start off by telling me some things you love about your sport or position or role in the dance team?
Yes, so thank you for having me. As a student on the team, I am young. I'm a sophomore, so I don't hold any positions or roles, but we do still offer them. So we have a president on our team, secretary, treasurer, social media, all these people that help keep our team running smoothly. I also love that when I was a freshman last year, I loved coming to school and already having a close group of friends. This was like the main thing last year that I was deciding. I was like, I don't know if I should do this or not, but that was an added benefit. And then also, I love that we do a lot of community service. So because we're affiliated under club sports, a lot of the things that we do are just community service activities, but it still keeps me involved in the school. So we are at every football game, every men's basketball game. We have girls at women's games, soccer games, like you name it, and we are probably there. And I just love that I'm always involved. I always know what's going on in all the athletic departments in the school, or at least a good amount of them. And then I also love that it keeps me in shape, and this is just something that I've been doing since I was super young. And I love it so much, and I'm glad I'm able to keep doing it.
Okay. Could you think of a competition in which you performed well and indicate how you mentally prepared for the event? Maybe what you specifically think or say to yourself to mentally prepare to compete?
Okay, yes. So one of the competitions that we go to is that we go to NDA camp. We also end up going to NDA Nationals in Daytona. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So for camps, we're there with a bunch of other different schools, and we're competing for bids for money to go to nationals. So obviously, we want to get a good bid and a good amount of money so that we can get good practice spots and good practice mat times when we were at nationals, as well as the hotels we're staying. So we have to be on our A game whenever we are at NDA camp. And that is a complete mental battle in itself, because this camp is not like anything else you've ever done. We have to have like this persona on this entire time. We're not allowed to even show that we are stressed out or overwhelmed, because it's a 3-day event and it's from like 8 a.m. and then we end up practicing until midnight and do it all again the next day. So it's just a really hard mental battle in that aspect. But we come to school a week before we go to camp in the summer, and we work on how we're going to be able to prepare for this. So we're preparing our routines that we're coming to compete with, obviously. And then we're also talking about what's going to happen. And we go through everything step by step so that we're not overwhelmed when we walk in there, because it's, once again, just a completely different environment from anything I've ever experienced. And I haven't experienced anything similar to even be able to describe it. So walking through it and going through everything that we need to go through before we actually get there helps a lot.
Okay. Could you think of a competition in which you didn't perform well and indicate how you mentally prepared for the event, and maybe some things you said that might or were different than compared to when you did well?
Yes. So we, like I said earlier, we go to NDA Nationals, and that's in Daytona, Florida, and we compete against a bunch of other different schools in the nation. So obviously this is really hard. We have the first day where we just have to compete and then see if we can even final to go again. And they don't take even half the amount of teams that first compete. So it's really hard. And WVU dance team is really good because we don't want to jinx it, but we final every year, which is great. But we do not always come out at first place, which is hard. It's being there is also really overwhelming because you're watching these other super talented schools and all these other dancers that are amazing right before you go on stage. So it's kind of just like psyching yourself out. But for us, like even after that happened and leading up into our national season this year, we're just talking again like how it works, how we go through to prepare for it, and then also the practices that we have are super focused. And that hopefully gets us into the right mindset, but hopefully for this year, since we haven't started practices yet, we will be able to plan ourselves out accordingly a little bit better, and this should help us mentally when we get there as well.
Okay. Describe any stress you experienced before or during a competition and how you deal with that stress in the moment, or any strategies you use.
Okay. So stress always comes with something that you care about, which is good because it means that you care. I deal with stress, there's two ways. I'm either joking around trying just to get myself out of like the nervousness, or I kind of just isolate myself so that I can really focus on what's going to happen, and that's usually what I do a little bit more. So with this, I'm just able to like walk through everything in my head. I can go through the dances before, and then I just try not to psych myself out, and that's the hardest thing. And then also we always practice before we compete, obviously, and things can go wrong in practice, so I just make sure I spend extra time working on whatever goes wrong to feel more prepared.
Okay. Mental toughness is defined as an athlete's ability to focus, rebound from failure, cope with pressure, and persist in the face of adversity. Explain where you're at with mental toughness at this point in your career, and has it changed over time?
Okay. So I have learned a lot. Being a second year on the team, everyone fails. Especially for nationals, some people are not selected to be in certain dances. We have to audition to be in each one. There's usually 16 people in each dance, and we have around 25 people on the team. So some people don't get selected to be in a dance, but that does not stop them from showing the coaches that they deserve to be there. So they're alternates for someone, and they get switched in and out of the dances every single time, so you have to fight for your spot. Even if you're in the dance and you're not an alternate, there's still someone fighting for your spot. So I guess you could say rebounding from failure is just pushing to be able to do better and get back into that spot. And I mean, this toughness is physical from not being in the dance, but it's just also mental because it feels so hindering. You just have to be able to rebound from this, or else you'll never get better and never learn how to push yourself.
Okay, that is a wonderful mindset to have. Could you explain how relevant you see the mental side of your specific sport in relation to dance?
Yes. Mental toughness that we just talked about plays into this again. You have to be able to maintain your focus and concentration in practice, especially in high-stress areas like competitions. The toughest mental aspect, at least for me, is being able to finish a routine just as strong as it started and to keep the pace. When you are so exhausted towards the end of a dance, it becomes a mental battle. Your body has the strength to do it, but this is where your mind gives up. Obviously, is super hard for me, especially for nationals. Our dances are 2.5 minutes long, which just does not sound that long at all compared to long football games where you are like running and hitting people the entire time. But it is cardio, and it is still like muscle endurance. So we train and we have lifts and all this stuff to get our body in the physical condition that we are able to compete. But then once again, you go out on the stage, your body's still going to do it, but it just gets so much harder towards the end, and you have to be able to make sure that you're not showing that it's getting harder and not failing, but just making sure that you are bringing confidence.
Okay. A big part of sports is the motivation that you can put behind it, and most times that motivation comes from what you want out of the experience. What motivates you the most, and how have you encountered other athletes who may have different motivation levels or motivation reasons? Some examples being motivated to be as good as others or even better, motivated to win, or motivated to get better within yourself in your individual development.
Okay, so what motivates me is myself. It sounds a little cliche, but I wanted this for myself. I applied to schools with good dance teams, and I made this one. And I just don't want to look back when I graduate and wish that I could have done better. The people that I dance with also give me a lot of motivation. I don't believe that there is a best person on the team because, I don't remember if I said this earlier or not, but everybody brings something different to the table. And I just look up to different girls for everything. It might be one person for hip-hop, another person for game day, another person for nationals. And it's also so inspiring when we travel to compete. that everyone is doing something different, and it might be skills that you've never seen before. So obviously, like, in diversing yourself in that also brings new experiences and new motivation, because you just want to be as good as everybody else. And then the other people on the team that might have different motivations for dance, like, you all just work together. There might be someone who's like, I want to win this competition. That for me, I believe that that's different. I'm just motivated to do my best. But you still have to, like, play into other people's motivations so that you can all come out on top. Everyone has to be motivated in order to get something done.
Some coaches have unhealthy coaching ways, and some have very good ones. Some make their reinforcements super negative, or some will only comment on the bad versus not commenting on the good. Some will pick favorites. And in your experience with dancing your whole life, have you ever had any coaches that had unhealthy coaching skills, or did you have ones with really good ones? And if so, what about their coaching strategies made it work versus made it not work?
Yeah. So I think that in dance there is always favoritism. I think there's like that in every other sport as well. But not even in college dance team, but also back at home when I did studio dance, favoritism still existed, and that's the main issue to me. It is hard to grow when you are fighting, like, so hard with everything that you do to watch it get handed to someone else. So this is just yet another mental battle. I've also had an amazing coach on the dance team that never showed any favoritism, and that was the coach that everyone valued the most. I don't know if that's, like, the right word to say, but everyone felt the most comfortable around her. And it's just amazing when you get someone that values you back and everyone else on the team just as much.
Yeah. Are there any things that you do consistently to prepare yourself to prepare yourself before performing? Do you have a set routine or superstitions?
I think I do have certain superstitions. Like, I'll always knock on wood if I'm about to jinx something. But for me, I'll run through the dance a couple minutes before we go perform and then not think about it again. Because, like I've said earlier, a lot of dance is mental. And if you think you're going to mess up, you will. All of the choreography that we have run over practices and practices for hours and hours is still in our body. So I don't have to think as much because this is what we practice for. And that kind of helps me remember that, like, nothing will go wrong is what I always like to tell myself. But I just like to isolate myself, like I said earlier, just keep to myself and then practice what I need to get done and then hope for the best when I'm about to get on the stage.
So there are a lot of athletes who may have not the same maturity level, and it can cause them to maybe, like, give up really fast or just be, like, not good teammates. Have you ever encountered maybe a teammate that held back in a little way, and how did you or a coach handle it? Or did you have teammates that were so exceptional and it made a clear difference to you?
Wait, can I read that question? Okay, so I think with dance, especially for me and where I grew up, I feel like I matured a lot faster than other kids my age, and I don't know if it's the same way for other dancers as well. It just depends on like, your talent level, who you're dancing with, like, mental abilities again. But I guess there are a couple people on the team that might be a little bit more immature and give up quickly. But we all work together, because if one person gives up, everyone else is going to. So we just kind of have to push each other to keep going and stay motivated, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to the interview. That was so informational. And I wish you so much luck in your season.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.